I don't know why you dragged us out to the middle of nowhere.
Come on, change is good sometimes.
I get that, but we could have been happy doing our usual theme park thing. We could be waiting for Illuminations as we speak.
We can't always be at a theme park. Besides, I think I might have the next best thing. Here, try this.
I seriously doubt a cup of coffee can make me any happier about our little adventurous expedition you have us on, let alone make me forget we passed up the Magic Kingdom for this.
Would you stop talking for 2 seconds and just try it?
Whoa, this is good. Like, really good. Where'd you find this, Starbucks?
Nope, this is Expedition Roasters, the artisanal roasters of specialty pop culture inspired coffees. You happen to be drinking Enchanted Tiki Coconut.
Wait, these are theme park inspired?
Yep, honestly, it's the next best thing to actually being in the parks.
What other flavors do they have?
If you want to embrace your inner Haunted Mansion, they have some Happily Never After, which features flavors of New Orleans pralines. And if you want to do your best Dapper Dan impression, you can grab some Main Street USA Colombian. And the best part is that all of their coffees are gluten-free and allergen-free.
That's fantastic. Let me see the bag. Whoa, these bags don't look like any other coffee I've seen.
That's because each one of the bags has unique custom artwork by guest artists. It makes it a little more fun to display in the kitchen than a boring bag.
That's cool. They're almost collectible. We're gonna have to buy more when we get home.
Well, since you like this one so much, maybe when we get home we can go to expeditionroasters.com and buy some more great coffee and maybe some fun mugs and shirts, too.
This means we can have theme park magic every day of the week. This is the next best thing.
Do you feel a little better now? You're caffeinated and you have a little bit of the parks here with you.
Much better. Maybe being out in nature isn't so bad after all. But I may prefer the animatronic animals better. This coffee may be the only type of adventure I need in my life. Start your expedition today at expeditionroasters.com and use coupon code DUO15 to save 15% off any purchase of Expedition Roasters themed coffees. Brew your happy place. Expedition Roasters, an adventure in every bag.
Hi, and welcome to the Theme Park Duo podcast. Grab your park map, churro, and hop in line with us as we take you on a coast-to-coast adventure through the world of theme parks, haunts, conventions, and more. Now, here's your hosts, Nikki and Gabriel.
Hello and welcome back, listeners of the world who love theme parks. Welcome back to the Theme Park Duo podcast, and I'm Gabe.
And I'm Nikki.
And we are
the Theme Park Duo.
We have a pretty awesome episode today. Honestly, it's one of the episodes that I've been really excited about to release, you know, because I think it also has to do a lot with the fact that we care a lot about the subject matter.
Yeah, I am thrilled. Like, I will go as far as to say it's one of my favorite episodes of ours.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And we haven't even finished recording it yet.
Oh my god.
What?
No, so to not make you guys wait any longer, today, well, I mean, they don't have to wait because they read the stupid title of the podcast.
They know what
so
they're
they
in
know what
for.
they're in for.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a surprise, unless it's a complete bait and switch. And today we're talking about the Barney Show at Universal Studios Orlando. No, we're going to be talking to Thomas and Nicole, who are two wonderful stunt performers in the Waterworld stunt show at Universal Studios Hollywood, which, to know what, like, anybody listening, you know that is single-handedly one of our favorite shows of all time at any theme park.
And if you've never seen the show in person or never heard of it, go on YouTube, watch it.
Seriously.
Yeah, watch it. It's worth it. And then you'll know who Thomas and Nicole play in the show. Well, Nicole, you know, because it's the only female character.
I mean, it's based on Waterworld, the movie.
Yeah.
The Kevin Costner movie.
Yes.
So, if you know the movie, you know the stunt show to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But the stunt show is extremely impressive. Very, very impressive. Lots of really dangerous stunts. Mm-hmm. Thomas doing one of them that you'll find out in a little bit all about. So, before we jump into our interview with Thomas and Nicole, we want to dive straight into, see what I did there? Dive.
I got it.
See the stunt show.
Water stunt show, got it.
Getting into the new, okay, never mind. Anyway, let's jump right into, I did it again. This is like no way of doing it.
Let's cannonball right into.
It's a little too intense. It's a little too intense. Let's light ourselves on fire and jump right into launch like a plane into a theater full of people. Like, yeah. Now it's too far. Seriously though, let's jump right into
Haunting headlines. So our first piece of haunting news comes straight
haunting news. It's a double dose of haunt.
Haunting. Well, it is hot in this location because
nice segue.
because
I like it.
This info comes straight from hot, humid Florida.
Hottie Orlando.
I don't know where I am. Okay.
You're in our apartment is where you are. But I understand what you're trying to say. Continue.
Okay. So Universal Orlando revealed that one of their new mazes for 2018 is going to be Scary Tales Deadly Ever After. The twisted minds of Universal Orlando's entertainment team are bringing back a fan favorite with a whole new twist in Scary Tales Deadly Ever After. Guests will encounter the Wicked Witch of the West, who has seized control of the fairy tale realm and is tormenting treasured storybook characters in hideous and cruel alternate storylines. As guests venture through the nightmarish bedtime story, they'll see familiar characters now turned evil, including Hansel and Gretel salivating over human flesh, a splattered Humpty Dumpty, and more.
Splattered, so that means he really fell and he died.
They never put him back together.
Oh no.
It's just like an omelet on the floor. Like an over easy egg.
That'd be great. That would be really funny, actually. With just like a sad face in the oak.
Yeah. Then the Wicked Witch is like standing there with like salt and pepper.
You know, I'm always a fan of these kinds of themes. I always think it's really fun to take, original fairy tales and just turn them dark. They all already have this tinge of darkness to them.
Oh, definitely.
If you read them, especially like the Mother Goose fairy tale stuff, and to see them completely turn into these grotesque versions of themselves, I'm always in for that. I always think it's so much fun. It always creates an environment that's extremely creative and whimsical, and it really transports you. And the reason why I say that is because I know that Scary Farm has done stuff like that, and I've really enjoyed it when they've done it.
Oh yeah, totally. And it's like you're right about the stories already having a hint of like gruesome scariness. Like Hansel and Gretel, the witch eats children.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up.
Yeah, so I mean, it's already there, but I think it's about taking the innocent characters and making them evil. That's really the
creepiness factor is really brought forward when they do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because when and that happens with regards to movies and anything in horror, it's whenever they take something innocent and pervert it in a certain way, it really, really makes it off-putting.
Yeah. So this should be a really fun maze. I think people are going to love it.
Yeah, and that was the last one they announced for Halloween Horror Nights 28, I believe?
2018.
No, well, I mean, like, Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando counts their years.
Oh, it's 28. Yeah.
Yeah, 28. And the one here does not.
No.
Which is sad. I wish they did.
Yeah.
But what can you do? We don't live in Orlando. Boo-hoo. Anyway, moving forward to a maze that has been revealed for both Universal Orlando Resort and Hollywood is Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. Based on the fourth installment in the classic slasher series created by John Carpenter, the mazes will transport guests to the suburban town of Haddonfield, Illinois on Halloween night, where Myers has escaped Smith's Grove Sanitarium and is hungry for revenge. This time, he relentlessly stalks his niece Jamie as his next victim, stopping at nothing to kill her. Guests will follow Myers as he escapes the mental hospital and counters his first victims at Penny's? Is that how you say it? Penny's? Okay. Penny's gas station. It's Penny's now.
Okay.
Penny's gas station and diner, and wreaks terror on Haddonfield. All set to Alan Haworth's ominous score. The maze will include horrifying scares by Myers in his classic featureless white mask and navy jumpsuit, with guests dodging his bloody knife. Bloody knife at every turn. Halloween fanatics can expect a cameo by Myers' psychiatrist Dr. Loomis and other famous characters from the film as they try to escape the bloodbath. So this is going to be the third time that Halloween has come to Halloween Horror Nights. I don't know how many times it's been in Orlando. I know that they've done a Halloween maze there before, but I'm excited to see it come back because in the past 5 years, the Halloween mazes have always been incredible. They've always been one of the best, if not the best maze at the event those years. And the last 2 years they've done Halloween, Halloween 2, both ending in very surreal moments of cerebral moments of sending the message that you can't kill the boogeyman. The boogeyman is going to be everywhere, and I really love those moments because as much as like the whole maze is set in a real life area, in real life, the ending is cerebral and kind of sets the tone for when you leave, and you leave with this feeling of like unsettled. You're unsettled when you leave, which I really, really like.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great way to leave a maze.
The downside for me is the fact that they're skipping Halloween 3.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people, if they're going to Halloween Horror Nights and like, oh, Halloween 3, awesome, Michael Myers. Those are the normal people who don't know horror. Mm-hmm. Halloween 3 doesn't have Michael Myers in it. It's some crazy Irish mask maker who's killing kids with masks. I mean, I think that's why they're not doing it in maze form.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet, at least. But if they're going in order, why would they jump backwards?
Well,
unless they just save it for like way later.
Like 5 years. That's what I mean. Like not yet, as in like they'll do all the Michael Myers stuff, and then like 5 years, 4 years from now, they'll be like, hey, let's do this.
Yeah, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. People, come on, that's good stuff. At least I think it is.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so that's another maze coming to Halloween Horror Nights, both in Orlando and in Hollywood. Yes, Nikki, pointing at yourself. It is your turn.
I just wanted to make sure it was my turn. I couldn't very well be like, is it my turn to announce something now?
There's this thing called back and forth, where you go, then I go, and guess what happens after that?
I don't know. I don't have an itinerary.
You go.
Okay, well, anyway, back to my piece of news. So...
Wait, it's my turn.
Stop it. It's not. So both Universal Studios Hollywood and Universal Orlando Resort are both doing a Blumhouse maze this year, but they're focusing on different movies. They're going in two different directions.
So it's the sequel house. It's Blumhouse of Horrors, right? No. It's Blumhouse of Horrors.
Whose topic is this one? It's mine.
It's Blumhouse of Horrors.
No, it's the horrors of Blumhouse.
Oh, well, whatever, same thing.
That's why you let me announce my announcement.
Same crap.
So, Universal Studios Hollywood is doing The Horrors of Blumhouse Chapter 2.
Oh, don't over-enunciate that because of me.
No, I was over-announcing it so people wouldn't think I was saying The Horrors of Blumhouse.
The Horrors of Blumhouse.
Yes, I was treading lightly on that word, not because I was jabbing at you.
Hey, I've met them. They're very nice ladies. And a few guys that are there as well.
Okay, anyway.
I like how there's no question like, wait, you've met them?
I just want to move on.
Okay.
So, Universal Studios Hollywood is doing Blumhouse Chapter 2. This maze takes guests on a terrifying journey that begins at the entrance to a dilapidated movie theater. And this is the same theme from last time.
Yes.
It was started at a movie theater. And in this movie theater, a compilation of horror films play out in real life. In Blumhouse's Truth or Dare, guests will succumb to an ancient curse that has been unleashed by a group of unsuspecting college students, forcing them to play a game where the stakes are life or death. In Unfriended, guests become pawns to a supernatural entity that has invaded a chat room, drawing inspiration from Blumhouse Productions' infamous opening title sequence. The final feature will lure guests into a creepy old house to answer desperate cries of help, only to discover that they have actually entered a paranormal world where real-life nightmares threaten to trap them forever in misery.
Ooh. Oh.
So these are two movies that I wouldn't immediately think that they would translate super well into a maze, but I guess it's just all how they do it.
Yeah, and
like Truth or Dare has those creepy smiles,
which I'm assuming they're gonna do in prosthetics.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that they wouldn't be doing it in prosthetics.
So I mean that'll be fun, but like other than that, and like a few like gory like shock kills, like there's really not much to Truth or Dare. And then Unfriended is like all computer based.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like they're gonna have the different characters' rooms, and they're gonna show their deaths.
Yeah.
Like, one of them is probably gonna blow their head off. One of them's gonna be shoving his face on, like, a broken blender, or have his hand in the blender.
Yeah.
Things like that. That's probably what it's gonna be like, and they'll probably have, like, the ghost girl or something. Unless I'm assuming it's Unfriended, the first one. So there's, like, the dead girl. They might bring her in there at some point and have some type of supernatural aspect to it. Although it already does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's just in Hollywood. So that's here. And
Yes.
there's a completely different one for Orlando.
Yes, the Orlando Resort is doing the Horrors of Blumhouse Maze. Whoa.
Mage?
Mage.
Ooh, magicians. Or not magicians, wizards, in a way. Is
Yeah.
a mage a wizard? That's a long conversation for a
wizard.
different podcast. Continuing on.
The Horrors of Blumhouse Maze will bring guests face to face with the most gruesome scenes from deja vu thriller Happy Death Day, as well as from The First Purge, the newly released prequel to the Purge series. In Happy Death Day, guests will be transported to the film's college town, where they will be forced to relive the last day of a student's life over and over again until she breaks the murderous cycle. Then, in The First Purge, guests will run for their lives as menacing citizens from the film hunt them as part of their first barbaric government experiment.
It sounds joyous.
I know, right? Where all crime is declared legal for 12 hours.
Ooh. So I don't know how I feel about the Purge as a house. I remember last year going to Orlando, and the Purge was like one section of the house.
Yeah.
When they had their Horrors of Blumhouse, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed it because it felt very claustrophobic. I remember like walking around the corner, somebody had a gun, and then there's things going on. It just felt very chaotic.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I'm not sure how well it's going to translate in this one, since there's only 2 properties, which means there's a lot more of Purge going on.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a lot of the same. Last year there was 3. So it was only one small section of the house last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I guess we'll see. Well, we won't personally see.
We'll watch on YouTube's, on the YouTubes.
Yes, we will.
We'll see what happens.
And Universal Hollywood did Happy Death Day as part of their Blumhouse Maze last year, and it went over well.
I actually kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I actually didn't dislike it as much as I thought I was going to dislike it, which I found really interesting, because normally when you hear, oh, we're doing multiple properties within one house, you're like, oh, well, that's great. It's just going to be non-cohesive. It's just going to be, best of. And usually that doesn't work, but it actually kind of worked in a weird way. Worked in a very weird way.
And I think Universal Orlando, the way they kind of go abstract with things, I think that they could do Happy Death Day pretty well.
What if you're walking through a giant baby face mask? That would be cool. Yeah. No.
Maybe that'll happen. I don't know.
Yeah? No? Yeah? Oh. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And lastly, the last little piece of information for Halloween Horror Nights this year, which this was the last maze announcement for Hollywood, and it's something that both you and I have been wanting for a very long time. I think me a little bit more than you. But I think the collective universe of Halloween Horror Nights fans cheered in agreement when they heard that the classic Universal monsters were returning to Halloween Horror Nights. And I say returning because semi-returning.
Yeah. Because
they did Universal Monsters Remix a while back when they had like the haunted house walkthrough. That was the kind of like the Frankenstein's castle.
Yeah. The year-round.
The year-round one before it got replaced by The Walking Dead. So, but they're bringing them back. So, it's alive, inspired by Universal's original cinematic monsters, and the studio that invented the horror film, Universal Studios Hollywood, unearths an all-new Halloween Horror Nights maze based on the original Universal monsters, with a terrifying contemporary twist on these classic horror icons. The new maze will also feature an original score produced and composed by celebrated Grammy Award-winning musician Slash, long hailed as one of the 10 best electric guitar players of all time.
Sweet.
So, the last time they worked together, if I'm not mistaken, was that ice cream maze.
I think so.
Remember like the clown one where they had the ice cream and the freezer section?
The 3D one.
Yeah, the 3D one.
That was super fun.
We really liked that one, and I really dug the music in that. So I'm actually really excited to see Slash return to Halloween Horror Nights and do like tackle the Universal monsters, because I love the Universal monsters so very much. Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster, Invisible Man, all that fun stuff. So
Yeah.
how are they gonna do Invisible Man? How do you think they do that?
They're just gonna have a hat floating with fishing wire.
So they're just gonna have like puppeteers in the rafters, just floating hats and glasses around, so that you think that they're invisible.
Yeah.
That's lame. What if they just have, how like their scares are like the flashing light and loud noise? What if they did that, but then nobody pops out after you? Maybe something like that. I don't know.
Or it's the when they do the room with all the dots.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or a scrim screen effect. So maybe they're there, or like a Pepper's Ghost, where you see them and then they just disappear or something. I don't know. Something like that. Mm-hmm. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, and then moving on from Halloween Horror Nights, another major haunt player in the industry and in the community is Knott Scary Farm. So this, the day that we're recording this, the Scary Farm preview event is actually this upcoming week on Thursday, which we're very excited about. We're going to be learning about some of the new stuff. But over the weeks since Midsummer Scream, they've been slowly announcing information on mazes that are returning and all that. So the information that is out currently is that Trick or Treat Lights Out, Shadowlands, Pumpkin Eater, Special Ops Infected, The Red Barn, and Paranormal Inc. are all returning to the event this year, which I don't have a problem with any of those. If anything, I think I would wish that Special Ops Infected might be a little changed, but we'll learn some information about that this week.
Yeah. In my opinion about the returning mazes, I think Lights Out gave Trick or Treat another 2 years.
It gave it life just for a little bit longer.
So I would be disappointed if Trick or Treat was still around next year. That's my personal opinion.
I think right now, I don't know if I'm right, but I think Trick or Treat now, because of Lights Out and its continued longevity, I think it's the longest running haunt maze in history.
I think so.
I really do.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Because it was around a long time, because the icons were just, it was the witch and, the tricksters for a while. So I think just...
Oh, I miss the tricksters.
I know, right? So I think just having the icons be out in the whole park kind of gave the maze a few years longer than it would have had.
I was talking to somebody at work the other day, and we were talking about Trick or Treat Lights Out. And, they were saying, like, oh, yeah, it was pretty terrifying. You going through the house, it's all dark. And I said, I'm somebody who goes to haunt multiple times a year. I know that house like the back of my hand. So walking into it pitch black is not all that terrifying, because I know how far I need to walk before I turn left. Then I know how far I need to walk till I turn right. Then walk around the bed, turn right into the bathroom, turn right, go to the wall that fake falls, then go into the garden.
Yeah.
I'm naming the scenes. Like, I know the house
switched it up
by heart. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they did to a certain extent, but not enough.
The attic, but the attic was switched from the year before.
Well, the attic, but then they also had that outside sequence where you went to, like, the backyard, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I want more of that.
Yeah.
So those are the returning mazes. And if you didn't notice, the 2 mazes that were not on there, or at least 3 mazes that were not on there,
Dark Ride,
were Dark Ride, Tooth Fairy, and Voodoo. So we have information, and we've seen construction at Knott's. We go to Knott's all the time. Voodoo is gone 100%, because the exit is different. They're building a new facade in front of it. We'll see what the theme is going to be. I think that and Tooth Fairy are going to be the 2 big things that we're going to find out.
And I think Dark Ride is coming back.
I can't imagine that Dark Ride wouldn't come back after its popularity.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to hold off and be like, oh, is it? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then if anything, they'll bring it back with a different kind of like overlay or something.
How about Shadowlands?
I said Shadowlands.
Oh, okay. I wasn't paying attention 100%.
Yes. So, to repeat, Trick or Treat Lights Out, Shadowlands, Pumpkin Eater, Special Ops Infected, Red Barn, and Paranormal Inc. are all returning.
Got it.
The 3 that are not listed are Tooth Fairy, Voodoo, and Dark Ride. Dark Ride's probably coming back. Voodoo and Tooth Fairy, 100% are not coming back. They're going to have 3 shows this year, and one of them... Oh, wait, all 3 shows are unknown.
Well, the Hanging.
Well, the Hanging is one of them,
theme.
but we don't know the theme yet. Yeah. We don't know who's replacing Elvira. And then there's one more show. I have heard rumors on who the new performer will be taking over for Elvira. It's so far-fetched that I don't even want to share it.
No, we'll just wait till we can announce what they say at the
event. Which, speaking of that, we will be having a special bonus episode dropped for that. So all of you Scary Farm fans listening right now, make sure, look this Friday, because this Friday we will have a new episode out for the Scary Farm bonus episode.
Yes.
Yes, it's the day after the event, Nikki. If you yes.
There's a lot going on in my life right now, Gabe. I
can't imagine what you're talking about. So that's all stuff that's for Scary Farm, and that's really exciting. Oh my god, I watched the video for the Scare Zone for Ghost Town, and I just got so excited.
It's a really cool video.
It's so cool. I like it so much. And the last piece of haunting headlines news coming straight out of Six Flags Magic Mountain's Fright Fest is that they're going to have a maze there based on the maze from the movie Hellfest.
What?
So the maze from that movie, they are building that maze.
That's cool.
So we are excited to see what they're going to do with that. I mean, I feel like we need to watch Hellfest now before we go.
Okay.
So that we can compare and contrast.
Well, before you go.
Maybe. I'll take you in a wheelchair. Compare and contrast. Compare and contrast. Other than that, I don't think we have any other Halloween news to be going over.
Or any news at all.
Well, there's news, just nothing notable that I think I wanted to mention. Also, the fact that we're running 27 minutes at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And our interview is about an hour long.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they stopped serving drinks with lids at Disney resorts.
Yeah, I did hear that.
That's a thing.
And there's a big thing where they want to know now if the refillable cups are going to come into the parks.
They should just sell different kinds now.
Yeah, 2 different colors. It'll
because
work.
then people can bring them back and give them an incentive to use them, so that there's no waste and you don't have to throw away plastic anymore.
Yeah.
So,
how do you feel about not serving Dole Whip?
I don't care.
I kind of care.
What are you hurt? Personally attacked?
Well, no, it's that's Disney's thing. I don't know why it bothers me.
Well, they have a Hawaiian show going on right now. It totally fits.
No, but I know. I don't know.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was great. I was like, oh, that's like a slap to the face.
In the big picture, I don't care, but when I first heard, I saw a picture of someone holding the Dole Whip at, by the Boardwalk Beagle sign, and I was like, no! my first instinctual reaction, my gut reaction was, how dare they? I mean, if I go, I'll eat it. It's not like I'm super angry, but
anti-Knotts now because of the Dole Whip.
No, but just my initial reaction was just no.
We haven't even had it.
So I was just wondering what your reaction was, because I never actually asked you.
I laughed.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. I was like, oh snap. Knotts be taking a swipe at Disney. Well, they always do, but I mean, that's funny. I think it's great. I think it's good for competition, because now people will be like, oh, less crowds, cheaper, and Dole Whip, Knotts.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And coasters, crazy coasters, 100% Knotts.
I mean, I don't hold it against them.
No, of course not. Anything that makes Knotts better, in my opinion, is great, and that means Dole Whip, then I'm all for it. All thumbs up. All aboard the Dole Whip train at Knotts.
Choo-choo.
Was not expecting the sound effects. Now I'm just thinking about a Dole Whip train at Knotts. And the smoke is all yellow.
And it smells like pineapple.
And the man driving it has a beard made of cotton candy and licorice sticks.
No, that's too far. I was thinking of, the ice cream guy from Adventures with Pete and Pete. Oh, it's the ice cream cone guy.
Yes.
Like that, but yellow.
Okay, yes, maybe that. Anyway, we've gone on a very long tangent there. That's not anything different for us. That's not out of the norm. Tangents.
Yeah.
Tangents.
It was only
tangents.
A 3-minute tangent. I've been watching the clock.
Oh, well, thank God. Thank you for timing it.
Just
I'm
so
really
you
appreciative
know.
of that. Very appreciative. Anyway, moving forward, let's get to the main segment of our show today. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we have Thomas and Nicole, both who are stunt performers in the Waterworld show at Universal Studios Hollywood, our favorite show of all time, pretty much. And we got to sit down with them and talk about the behind the scenes of Waterworld. How do they prep? How do they get their jobs? You know, the training that they go through, the really rigorous training and audition process for Waterworld. You know, how both of them met and how they got into the roles they are now.
And just some fun experiences and memories from
There's
the
some
show.
really funny stories.
Yeah.
That, because the day that we interviewed them, we actually went to go see Waterworld. Later that day, we actually saw like the second to last show, and it was Thomas who was, spoiler alert, Thomas does the fire dive. We saw him do his fire dive, but every single thing that they mentioned in the interview, when we went to go see the show, we're like, that's what they were talking about, that's what they were talking about, that's what they were talking about. That's, you know, just being able to point out every single thing that they mentioned, which is really fun just to get the insider perspective of all of these crazy stunts and you know, like what we see as, you know, super tight show, and to know that they're doing these things in between and thinking about all these
so many
millions
variables.
of things. Yeah, so many variables. So it's just really, really interesting to have watched the show right after interviewing them.
Yeah.
But maybe you, the listeners, can do that now. After you hear this and you're able to go to Hollywood, Universal Studios Hollywood, go check out Waterworld and you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
Or watch it on YouTube.
On the YouTubes. I don't like all YouTubes. I think it's funny. YouTubes.
Yeah, that's kind of new too. I don't know where that started.
I've said YouTubes a long time.
Oh, okay.
YouTubes. Anyway, so let's jump right into our interview with Thomas and Nicole from Waterworld.
Can we dive into it?
Yes, you can, whatever you want.
Okay.
Just whatever pun you want to use to jump into water. Yes, go
Okay.
do that into the interview.
Okay.
Just don't hurt yourself. Hey everybody, this is Gabe and
Nikki.
And we're out on location here in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Well, I mean, like, we're always in Los Angeles. That's where we record. But we're outside this time. That's not normal.
And we're well fed.
Yes, we are very well fed by the recommendation of our new friends over here, Thomas and Nicole. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Thomas and Nicole are wonderful stunt performers for the show Waterworld. And, you know, obviously in our conversations, we've learned a little bit more about their history. And you guys have even worked shows like Fantasmic.
Yeah, we have. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, we've been around the block when it comes to theme parks.
It's an interesting world, theme parks, because, you know, I can't imagine like going from one show where it's like Waterworld, it's like guns and flames and jumping off, and then all of a sudden you're in a costume, not being able to talk, staring at children.
It's definitely, it's a very different world and a different mindset, for sure, especially the characters that we play in both shows.
And you said you played Pocahontas, right?
Back in the day, I was Pocahontas and Princess Jasmine at Walt Disney World, Orlando, Florida. You may have seen me at breakfast.
And you had fantastic costumes of those characters.
Oh, yes, I do. Halloween comes once a year, and that's when I build one of my costumes, and I may or may not have been Jasmine or Pocahontas at one time.
I feel like I should use that like as the thumbnail art for the episode. Just that one photo that he shared. It's just three photos of you in your consecutive costumes. But we're not here to talk about Disney, although that could be its own episode on its own. We're here to talk about Waterworld, and as everybody knows, you know, Nikki and I love Waterworld so very much. We talk about it quite often whenever we can.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like a must-do every time we're at the park, and it's funny sitting with these lovely people now and knowing that we probably have seen them perform in the show like dozens of times by now.
Exactly. I mean, we sit in that audience and are wowed every single time. I mean, there's a reason why we go back. There's a reason why we go back to the show, because although it's not necessarily different, it's that good, and it keeps you entertained that long all the time. There's something to it. I will be sad when the day comes that Waterworld is gone, but hopefully that's not for a very long time.
Don't speak those things.
Never talk about it. Uh-oh.
Waterworld's leaving?
What?
No, Waterworld's not leaving.
Oh my gosh.
They're like, this is news to us.
They're worried about their jobs.
Like, do you guys get a special Universal News podcast thing that we don't
Honestly,
get?
sometimes you get the news before we do, so.
That's a
Yeah,
fact.
okay. Don't worry, your jobs are safe. It's not leaving.
Oh, God.
I just feel like it's with Harry Potter right next to you guys, it's like a constant threat. Like with us fans, no, like not like any, like officially, but it's just like in my head every time I'm like in like Hogsmeade, I'm like, don't you dare touch Waterworld, don't you dare! I won't write anything you put on that plot of land.
As she's wearing the Deathly Hallows, she's like, don't touch it.
I still love Harry Potter, but it just shows you how much I love that Waterworld show.
It's funny when that show begins is, it's stuck in the middle of the ocean. There's no dry land to be seen anywhere except that big castle in the back.
Ignore the castle behind the curtain. It is not there. We are in the open ocean.
I'm pretty sure last time we saw the show, they made some joke to the castle being there.
Probably.
I'm pretty sure they did.
I feel like they did too.
Yeah.
Sounds like an RC thing.
Probably.
I was
RC?
just gonna say that.
One of our coworkers, his name's RC. He does a lot of great like improv things, and he'll throw in little jokes like that.
He's the sage, so he's one of the guys that warms you guys up in the beginning, the main one.
So actually that leads me to one of my questions is, does the show allow you to have some form of improvisation, or because it's a stunt show and things have to be so precise that they rather you not do that kind of a thing?
Honestly, it really depends on the characters. So some characters have a lot more wiggle room than others. Characters like myself, the Helen, the Sage, and the Deacon are all on live mic, but the guys get a little more wiggle room in their improv, so to speak. RC, don't even try, because the show will never start. I've tried. And the music starts, I'm like, I gotta know the smokers, that's right, dang it. And for Helen, it's not that I don't, it's just there are very specific character things that they like to see with our Helens. And all of our Helens are all different. Like there's 6 of us, we all do a different show, something is different. But more or less, we sort of have to stay within the lines. They don't like us to banter too much, which is, for me, is frustrating because Greg Dahl for RC started, I'm like, I will tell you this comeback later. I can't do it right now.
Yeah, you basically kind of touched on it, is that the show itself has a skeleton that we have to follow. There's a lot of sound cues, special effect cues that do not change and cannot change for the safety of everybody. But there are moments where there's a little freedom to sprinkle in some of your own spice, and that's what makes the show so much fun, not only as an audience member but also as a performer, because then within the context of the show and keeping our ratings up, we get to have a little fun as well.
So what are some of those moments that you get to improv on?
Prime example, one of the roles I do, we come out in the very beginning of the show, and we call it the pre-show, and basically just warm the audience up before the show officially begins.
Or wet the audience.
Exactly. Cool the audience down with some water. So yeah, we run around and get people wet and make them laugh and have a good time. Just make sure that, hey, it's okay to laugh in this show. You're watching. We're here to have a good time, basically, and that's where we have a ton of freedom to just banter with everybody and get everyone kind of just settled in, relaxed, and then, all right, here's an awesome show you're about to watch.
I think it's so funny that it's like the beginning of the show is, oh yeah, we're wetting people and it's funny, we're gonna make jokes. Oh, I got that guy so good. Oh wait, that guy just got shot with a shotgun. Oh shit, this just got real. Like it's the ultimate bait and switch almost. Exactly. And with regards to kind of like your guys' history of stunt performing or acting, how does that kind of play into getting your roles at Universal? Because I know that you had mentioned, Nicole, that doing Waterworld was kind of in the conversations we were having before we were recording, so people know that this conversation happened off the air. That you mentioned that Waterworld was kind of like your first go-around, and then, Thomas, you said that you've been doing a lot of stuff. So how did what you did before kind of play into all of that?
Essentially, I think this is like, how did you get hired?
How did we get hired?
Yeah. I signed paperwork.
Well, yeah, like we were saying in our conversation before, I was not a stunt performer previously. I had been here and was just acting. And I saw the post for the show, and I had a couple friends that were stunt people, but like I said, all of my friends were kind of like Thomas here. They're crazy martial artists or gymnasts or just such physically fantastic people that it had never crossed my mind that I could do stunts. I mean, I'd started taking some circus classes through a Groupon. And the warm-up at that school ended up being kind of what the physical test room was like for the Waterworld, which is funny because at my audition, Thomas signed me in. And I remember walking up and I was so excited and like, hi, I'm here for Helen. And I was like trying to be nice.
And I was like, you're late.
And he barely looked up from his clip. He's like, you're late. And then he looked back down and I went, great. This is going to be good. These are friendly people.
Great first impression. Good job, Nicole.
But it was good for me having my background as an actress definitely helped me because, and it's the one thing I tell friends who want to audition for Helen is that Helen, while it's very physical, we're on live mic the whole time, so you could be the most insane performer physically, but if you can't act, then you won't get hired. Period. That's just the way it goes with Helen. So having that background helped me, and then I started training with like Thomas and some of the other guys, and someone was like, "You could do stunts," and I'm like, "What? No." And I was just training to get better at the show because I was exhausted and climbing all the I sucked. For a good, I did, and you know, you're still so mean. But I am still here, and after a lot of work, it got easier. But that's yeah, I know, gosh, but that's kind of my background into Waterworld.
Yeah.
We know your background. You're a jerk to the people who come up to sign up, right?
Exactly. That's why they keep me around.
It weeds out the people who aren't serious.
Yeah, it weeds everyone out. You're the.
His resting bitch face reads a lot of people out.
It's not resting. It's fully active.
They walk into the room. Just walk away. Just walk backwards.
Well, no. When Nicole came onto the scene, I'd been a veteran of the show, and that's why I was part of the sign-in table. And that's kind of how you get into the show in general. Is like you have everybody who gets hired has some sort of background in something physical or athletic, or whether it was stunty or not. Is like, for me, I was a martial artist and a gymnast. Other people were professional jet skiers. Others were water skiers. And the list goes on and on and on. Every particular role has a specific skill set that you need, and when you come audition, they kind of see what background you have, and then they'll place you. Okay, you're right for this role, or Nicole's right for the Helen role. Obviously, it's the only female role, and then Thomas is right for the fire dive role because he has a gymnastic background and has aerial awareness. So they audition you based on those principles, and then tailor your skill set to the show after that. And so,
I think you want more.
I have a problem. Don't judge me.
You know what? I'll have some more coffee too.
Yeah.
I will too.
Look what we started.
Coffee.
Addiction is a beautiful thing.
So yeah, how I got into stunts is actually pretty bizarre road. I've done martial arts my entire life since the age of 6, and in school I was much more of an academic, and I was like destined to go to be some biochem, mathematical, whatever.
Wizard.
And
Yes.
and then like my senior year of high school, they were like, "Hey man, you should audition for the dance team." And I was like, "What? I don't dance," but I did for fun anyway, and ended up loving it. It was so much fun. Being a martial artist, learning dance wasn't too unfamiliar. It was just a new way of moving. So the dance bug bit, I fell in love with it, started doing it as a hobby, and became a professional dancer first.
Wow. That's cool.
Got in the industry as a dancer. And then on one of my dance jobs, they also had some stunt guys, and was like, "Hey, I do martial arts, I'd like to try stunts." And they brought me in. And that opened an entire new world of like, here, just hitting the ground and getting lit on fire. And then,
That's a jump. hey, fall down. We're going to light you on fire now.
Yeah. And, just expanded my skill set there, and then got into Waterworld. And the rest is
History.
present.
That's funny. We're talking about kind of like learning dance after learning martial arts. For me, I totally understand that because in high school I did football, and the entire time my dad was like, "You should definitely do ballet," and I'm like, "What the fuck do ballet for?" He goes, "A lot of professional football players actually do ballet, so they learn how to be quicker on their feet, they balance better, and a lot of other things. So it actually helps within that realm as well." So I totally understand that.
You didn't actually do ballet, though.
Hell no.
No, I was going to say, I've been married to you for 2 years, and I never remember you saying you ever took a ballet class.
Yeah, I didn't.
But it would have helped you.
I guess. I don't have evidence. So they say.
I've heard it's a good thing to do.
Yeah. They also say that pickle juice is good for you when you got cramps, but I can't prove that either. So, anyway.
So what was the audition process like for you for Waterworld specifically?
Like, how intense is it?
Well, it was, for me, it was like I said, it was a, how do I explain it? It was,
You were late.
shut up. I actually, let me clear some air about my lateness. I was not late. I had sent in an email because I was coming from one of my bartending jobs. So I was, if you're expected late, then you're not late. Anyway.
Late with an excuse.
Yes. Dang it. This has been a theme for my life. I think Thomas made me a bracelet once that said late for a separate thing. And you don't remember the bracelet for the for New Year's? And it said late, which I was also working. Anyway, back to the question. So what was fun for me during the process is it's an open call. So you go, and there must have been, I think there were like 190 people. And I think my number was something like 180 something. And so to continuous, like, you go in, we would sign up, and it was just, they would just look at you and sort of like, okay, yes, no. And then they'd give us a scene, and they paired me up with a couple guys. One of them couldn't say the word knit, which was a challenge, but knit, like knitting. He couldn't, he kept saying like knit. I'm not joking. I wish you'd been in the room for that. That would have been great to see your face for that. But we got through it, and he did not get through it. I got through it. But it was just a cool thing. It was like little things like that, little scenes, little like testing your comfortability. You know, are you comfortable being silly? Are you really nervous talking in front of? At this point, we had all of our owners and bosses, which they're off doing, you know, our company has expanded so much, they're off doing a lot of TV and films now, but when I started, they were the ones auditioning me. And then you'd get brought back, and the physical room was pretty interesting. They set up this whole area, and it was like something like maybe 7 to 10 different physical things, and you had a minute at each station, and someone like Thomas, a veteran, would be with you and would write down. You were with me. It was Skylar. Skylar had a clipboard with me and Leo. Leo was my partner in the audition room. Skylar does the lackey role, and Leo is one of our tinies, or number 6, if you will. So the big guy.
Hence the name Tiny.
Yes, exactly. And they would keep a record of like, okay, how many burpees did you do? How many push-ups did you do? How many pull-ups can you do? Things like that.
Strength assessment.
Strength, that's a more technical term.
Yeah.
Yes. Strength assessment, mostly because it's a dangerous show. If I slip on a ladder rung, can I pull myself back up, or can I at least hold myself in place, you know, hypothetically?
Yeah, if one of the stunts she does is like a slide for life, which is, how would you describe it?
Is it the zip line?
It's a zip line.
If that zip line stops in the middle and she needs to hold herself there while we rescue her, she needs to be able to hold that thing for like 2 minutes solid, right? And we want to make sure our performers can do that and not worry about them falling.
That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, keeping ourselves alive is pretty cool. And then after you pass the strength assessment, and then the real weeding out, though, is the final process of the audition, is we bring you to the set at like 5 o'clock in the morning, so it's dark. They make everyone do a swim, because you got to make sure you can swim. And it's things that all sound pretty simple, but it's surprising to see what happens when people get on our set, because it's not just swimming. All of a sudden, it's the water's dark. We have the bullet hits floating around, and I've seen people who thought they were good swimmers freak out and need to be saved, or we make everyone jump off certain heights. So I had to jump off the lower level because if I'm too afraid to do that, I'm not going to be able to jump off my tower. They sort of run you through it, but the set's scary, and it weeds out the people that are like, oh, this Waterworld, that sounds fun, versus people who can actually handle it.
Yeah, there's a different level, or another level beyond just being able to swim, or being able to jet ski. It's like, oh yeah, I grew up on a lake. Great.
Have you seen our set? It's not very lake-like.
Can you maneuver this, several 100-pound jet ski in tight quarters? Can you drive this boat and not crash into a tower?
I never crashed. I just couldn't park it at first.
Can you manipulate your body 45 feet in the air and not land on your back?
On fire.
On fire. So
sounds difficult, to say the least.
Yeah, so obviously you would start with the basic skill, but then they add layers on top of it, and that's what creates the show, right? And so when in the audition process, after the first round where they find out your background and they have you do acting and those things, the second round is when they test your actual abilities. Hey, can you do what you say you said you could? And that's when they test you on the set. And
a lot of people are liars too. You find out when you get to the set.
I mean, I would assume that people are going to want to make themselves look as best as possible and say whatever they need to say, but then you kind of have to prove it.
Right. And this is where people pass or fail. And for me, when I hired in, it was actually funny. Back to like my previous story of like meeting a stunt guy. This was a separate occasion, a different person. I was working at a dance show, and one of my fellow cast members, he was the, hiring manager of Waterworld as well. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, you do what? He's like, yeah. I manage the Waterworld team, and we'd love to have you on our cast, like, come audition for us. And I was like, heck yeah.
Awesome.
So I did, and, he already knew that I was right for the fire dive position, which is like...
Wait, you do the fire dive? You said it like a couple times, but like...
I'm the guy
freaking awesome.
Who gets lit on fire at the end.
That has to be like a good pickup line, right? Like, what's up, girl? I get lit on fire every night.
Could light a fire in your heart. What?
I'll keep you warm at night.
Because I'm on fire. She just walks away.
But only for 20 seconds. It's relatively short.
So, where was I?
Sorry.
You were invited by someone who I'm guessing this was back WSSI days, before Action Horizons took over. Right. It's a separate company. He got hired in with an older company than I did, and that he told you to come audition.
This show was managed by two different companies. Currently, we're managed by a stunt company called Action Horizons. Previously, we were managed by a company called WSSI, Water Ski Sports in something. And he had worked with me on this dance show and saw my abilities. I was like, hey, I think you'd be great as a fire diver. You should come audition. So I did, and then round 2 was like, hey, you said you could do high falls. All right, let's do it. And they just threw us off the top.
Oh my God.
Was like, all right, here you go. And, up to this point, I'd probably jumped off of things that are like maybe 30 feet high. And this is like 45 feet high. So it's like almost 50% taller. Yeah. And not only do you have to jump off of it, you have to jump off of it and flip and twist. And show control.
Yeah, I don't do that.
And not only do you flip and twist, you can't just jump like you're doing a front flip, you have to step off like you're falling off the platform. So they call it a step off branny, and that's essentially the trick that we do in the show. And those are the extra layers, right? It's not just like doing a front flip on a trampoline anymore. It's stepping off branny 45 feet and then landing in water, and then you got to swim out, you know.
Is it hard to make it look like you're just stepping off?
It is. I mean, I wouldn't say it's difficult to like the trained high diver, but in actuality, there is a lot of extra steps to it. There's an element of making it look like an accident, and there's a concept that we call in stunts. It's called egg on your face. You don't want to have egg on your face. No. Like, for example, if there's a fight scene in Jason Bourne movie and he's fighting like 3 guys, obviously you can only deal with like 1 or 2 guys at the time. Guy number 3 has to look like he's still in the fight without having egg on his face. So how do you fill that time up? What do you do extra while waiting for your turn to get beat up? And that's how you not have egg on your face. So when you, in terms of like the step off branny, how do I make it look like I'm falling without making it look like I'm in control the whole time?
And on fire.
Well, the on fire part's easy.
Well, that's the answer, right?
Lighting yourself on fire, easy. But for someone who, like myself, who is not a gymnast, my aerial awareness is not at that level. So for me, the step off branny thing would be extremely difficult. Especially add the fire element would be nuts. But for someone like Thomas, like he's really good at that no egg on the face thing. And to see what some of these guys do, like on fire 45 feet is like, they're like, do you do that? I'm like, no, I do not. And I know I'm good. Light me on fire on the ground. I'm set. On the ground. I'm so set.
So, and like what you guys do is pretty incredible. And I've talked to a lot of people who are in different shows in theme parks and, you know, other situations. And a lot of the time they're like, oh yeah, well, we go on stage and then I go off stage and the whole time I'm not there. It's just like muscle memory. I go out, I do it, and I leave. I can't imagine that that's the same situation for you guys, especially because each show can be different depending on like if something goes wrong, if timing is different, or anything like that. And then also with regards to like some of the bigger stunts, I can't imagine that you would not mentally be there. Like you have to be aware of your situation at all times. Is that kind of how that works?
Absolutely. You basically nailed it on the head. Our show is such a different type of show where it involves safety to a higher degree. So everyone in the show, not just performers, but also stage managers and the crew, have to be present and be aware of what's happening. So in case something does go wrong or an effect doesn't work right, something's different, you have to react in real time. Okay, how do we go around this? How do we solve this problem and continue with the show without potentially hurting ourselves or somebody else?
Yep.
And keeping each other safe, you know?
So depending on the situation, is the protocol kind of improvisational depending on the situation?
It really, I mean, for the most part, if it's something technical in the show related, like this, I mean, there's so many elements, as you guys know. So if a certain aspect doesn't work, we have alternate sequences that we all know. So sometimes it'll just happen in the moment, like the mariner coming up out of the water at the end. Sometimes that fails, and he actually has to climb out of the water, run backstage, run up the stairs, and pop out at the top where the deacon and I are.
Carry on.
Right, and that's something that, like, based on sound cues, and I always kind of like peek over to sort of make sure he's coming, but it's happened where all of a sudden it's like, nope, he should have been here, and we kind of peek down and he's like stuck on the lower level. So the deacon and I have an alternate sequence that we already know about to get me into the basket, so it doesn't just look like, oh God, what do we do? And then we have other protocols if we already know that something's not going to work. There are times
go straight into our alternate sequence. So
Right.
The audience has no idea that something's wrong.
Oh, so they make you aware way before.
Right, they'll be like, hey, just so you guys know, the sage drop, the crane's not working, so we're just going to do this alternate sequence. Just assume it's not going to work, and then we know already, and we can just play it that way, and you guys, hopefully, are none the wiser.
Yeah. And then there are other times when things go wrong and we totally don't expect it, and there is no alternate sequence, and those moments are my favorite.
Yep.
Because that's when you really have to be quick on your feet and move on to the next part of the show without breaking character and without laughing at the situation, because we all know, like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen, but that was really funny that it did.
So what's an example of that that you can share?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Something funny or like an injury?
No,
or like an emergency
injuries-
situation?
Injuries happen. I think
let's assume
something
that
more,
would
something
happen,
funny.
Yeah.
Funny. Well, my funniest thing, we did have to stop the show because the I came in once, and so we've got the Howlin' boat, and the motor is on the back, and the sort of what's the technical term? The stick. I was with part-time. I was with you guys that day.
Steering thing.
I was with RC, the rudder, if you will. So I come in and I'm trying to get the boat, and then all of a sudden the rudder comes off of the engine, and I'm just like, oh my, like, I can't, the boat doesn't work, you can't steer it, and the motor's just like, so I turn it off, and our sage, who was RC at the time, I think he thought that I was kidding, because he didn't realize, and I even held it up, but I don't think he knew what it was. He's like, Helen, you taking all day or what? And so I stopped.
She's
and I
floating
went,
dead in the water.
I went, yeah, hold on, I'll be right there. And I took the rudder and I started paddling, and of course going nowhere. And then he finally went, oh, you. And then in that situation, it was hilarious, but it's right at the top of the show. Everyone knows that it is broken. So in that moment for me, I can kind of laugh, and you do a little wave, and because we have to reset it by having a jet ski come out, tie a rope,
Tow you back.
pull it back, and then we restart the show, and I come out on a jet ski. So it's like, by then, for me, I like to have a little fun because we've already blown the mystery.
The audience is in on it now.
Yeah, they're in on it.
joke
So
to
I'll come up and he'll be like, Helen, where have you been? And I'll be like, I've been to dry land twice. and then everybody laughs and we acknowledge the awkward moment and then we move on. But the cool thing that I've noticed is even in those situations where it's that extreme and you kind of like make the joke, people fall right back into it.
Yeah.
Like, as long as you make your little joke, but if we can move on and get back into it, the audience comes right along with us, and half of them don't even remember that happened because
I would even argue,
it
like,
gets so
they
into
love-
it.
They love it even more because that it shows the human factor in the show, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh right, how do they overcome this obstacle? Look they're succeeding at it. It's it's really cool to see the audience come with you on the journey.
How long does it take to reset that scene? If they have to come tow you away, then come back in?
It was pretty quick, actually. I mean, like I said, we're all. The point is that everyone is aware, so there's always someone watching. So we've got people up in the booth, we've got our other performers. So in the time that it took me to sort of like do the wave, they already had the guy in the wave runner like, okay, grab the ski
geez,
rope
that's fast.
and let's pull it out. Like we're sort of trained to reset and move as quickly as possible. And I think that's a big difference between the caliber of people that end up at the show, is that you have to be someone who can do that and who can be a team player.
Adjust on the fly, yeah.
Because sometimes it is an emergency, and we're trained for that too. So if someone gets injured and it's on our set, we can sort of start that protocol because we're quick on the uptake and we've been trained to do that, rather than sitting around and waiting for however long it could take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fork me. Sorry. The microphone is on the fork, and she was holding the fork away from me.
We're gonna take a picture of this, and you guys are gonna post it.
Oh no, we are going to post it. Are you kidding me? This is for sure going to happen. This is the incredible technology that we've evolved into making as humans. And I think that's a great point, that you guys have to be more than just performing. It's a multifaceted role that you guys have within the show. And I think that's a big misconception for people who watch the show sometimes, or people who think about a stunt show, is, oh, it's they're just acting, they're falling off. That's relatively easy, right? No. It's a lot more than just the stunts. It's having to be able to think about 6 other things at the same time to make sure. Yeah, what's for lunch? Does that ever pop in your head?
Do you guys want coffee?
Oh, dude. When I'm up top doing the spear stab and I'm about to light on fire, I'll have full conversations with my mariner and be like, hey, man, did you see that episode of Bones last night? Like, how ridiculous was that? Like, he'd be like, nah, man, as I kick him and he's like falling over the top. And, or we'll mess with each other in ways that will be funny to us, but the audience is none the wiser. And
Like tag.
yeah, we'll play tag with each other in the middle of the show.
During the show.
You're it.
And
No tagsies, backsies. That's the rule.
but the whole idea is like, how do we do it in the show so that nobody knows? And that's how we keep it interesting for ourselves, you know.
No, that. See, that's the kind of inside stuff that I would want to know about. It's like, now I'm gonna be watching the show and be like, that guy's it. He's it today. He's it right now. But it's a multifaceted role, as we were saying. You know, multitasking and things like that. And one of the things that recently I've noticed, and you know, we had a brief conversation before, is we've seen the show so many times. Nikki and I have seen it so many times that now we're kind of like looking around at other things that are happening while the major stunts are being performed or after somebody falls into the water. And one thing we noticed is a little flag comes up. And we're, you know, Nikki and I are like, oh, the flag, it came up, that guy's safe, thank God. You know, or something like that. You know, we'll have that small conversation.
Yeah, and I think that leads to our next question of where do they go when they fall in the water? Like,
They disappear.
Yeah, Thomas, where do you go after the many times that you get shot and fall in the water?
I go to sleep with the fishes.
Take a nap.
Yep. Nap time. Bye.
I just tell kids that guy's dead and we're going to hire a new one.
That's the 3rd time today.
There are multiple swim out points in the water on the stage. When you see someone hit the water and go underneath, basically we're swimming to backstage. We stay underwater and hold our breath. And the flag that you're talking about is one of these signals to the stage managers, to other performers that, hey, we made it, we're safe.
Is it just like a little tab you press, or like it's a button?
Yeah, there's for my specific flag. I spin this wheel and it just actuates it and turns it up.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and
The more you know.
essentially every swim out has its backup person as a safety, like to keep a lookout for each other. Whether you're backstage or even a person on stage might be your first safety, your first responder. Mm-hmm. So every swim out point, there's somebody looking out for you in the water. And, you know, whether the signal is like a thumbs up or an orange flag or, you know, calling out to each other. I think there's one that's like Marco Polo. It's an audible,
Really?
it's an audible cue, yeah.
Really?
Like we'll swim up and someone will say Marco, the other guy will say Polo to acknowledge like, oh yeah, you're good.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have, like, as Helen, is there any, like, do you have anything that equates to, like, the flag? Because I know you do have stunts that you have to, like, jump off the tower and things like that.
I mean, not quite like the flag, because you see me the entire time. So the flags are more for anyone that you see in the show that sort of disappears. The flags are more for front of the house people. So like our stage and sound and people that are up in the booth. We have a lot of, we'll have managers, both our own Action Horizons managers or Universal Entertainment managers that will also watch sometimes. So it's sort of a little signal.
They also have cameras in water too. So they
They do underwater cameras?
We have underwater cameras. There is a camera inside the big acid tank where the sage drops into. It's a big air, kind of like a bouncy house in there. It's a big airbag, but there's a camera in there that they can see in the booth. And when he lands, he looks up at the camera, flashes a little thumbs up, and that way, pretty much anytime you can't see someone, we have those in place. For me, though, if you're on stage, if something were to happen to me and I didn't think I could finish the show or it was something serious, if you ever see a performer throw your arms into an X, I don't know why I'm doing it now because no one can see it, but I did it anyway. You can totally see it. Stop the interview. Yeah. But that's it. That's pretty much saying like something's happened, someone's been hurt, and that's a big where
Cancel the show.
in the front of house.
Boom. Done.
Yeah. And that's why we watch out for each other in the front of house. So even though I'm not technically anyone's official safety, we're all each other's safety. So if someone sees me, I might not even be able to throw my arms yet, but if I just, broke my ankle off, Thomas might see me and throw up a sign because maybe the sound managers or our managers in the booth have missed it. So that way everybody knows and we can take care of it immediately.
And that just shuts the show down, right? Like that's
The X
sounds
is- the
off.
X- the
Everyone,
X is,
everything
stop
happens
the show.
immediate. Like, hey, sorry, folks, the show is. Yeah.
Nobody move.
How do you handle that? Because that must be pretty intense. Like if something like that happens with guests in the audience.
That is actually a perfect question for Thomas, because sometimes we get injured, and luckily we've never had anyone be so injured they can't come back to work. Thomas, would you like to talk about your experience with that?
Yes. There have been like we were saying before, we're trained in first aid, CPR, water safety training. The entire cast goes through the same training every year, and specifically to our venue as well, so that we're perfectly capable to be first responders to each other. Because we know the show and the stage so well, we're most suited to help to save each other when something goes wrong. So in an instance where a stunt goes wrong, and what Nicole was alluding to, I had an accident on the show, I believe 4 years ago now, and where I had to dump the show. So I had fallen into the water, and when I wasn't supposed to, and I hit the set on my way down, and in the moment I thought I could continue on with the show, and tried to get out of the water and could not. My chest was in pain. I didn't have the strength to get myself out of the water, so I just threw the big X sign and gave the signal to the stage managers, and that's when all music cut off. The rest of my team came over to come get me out of the water. Luckily, nothing serious to me happened specifically. I was kind of doing a self-assessment while I was in the water. I was still, moving my legs and arms and things, and keeping myself afloat. I was right at the edge, so I was able to hold on to the bar matting, and eventually got myself out of the water. But yeah, the entire audience witnessed this stunt go wrong, and they were sitting there in silence, just waiting for something to happen. And I kind of recognized that moment. It's like, oh no, they think I'm dead. Let me give them a wave real quick. So I just hey guys, I'm okay. And then the whole audience just started clapping, and they kept them there, even though the show had essentially canceled, and they call it dumping the show. We essentially had to dump the show, but before they cleared the entire audience, they made sure that I was able to clear and get off the set myself first, because what could happen in a chaos is that they'll start to dump the audience, and now you have 3,000 people in the way of what potentially is, hey, we need to get this guy to the ambulance, and there's 3,000 people in our way right now. So protocol, I guess, is keep the audience there and make sure everything clear the emergency first, and then we'll clear the audience. And those moments happen very rarely.
Very rarely.
But it happens. But we've all been trained to handle it as quickly as possible and to maximize, our recovery.
Which is nice, because as a performer, I feel safe at all times, knowing that like he said, he was laying there and he could do a self-assessment and be like, okay, this might be broken, this might not be broken, can I move my toes? All right, I'm not paralyzed, so he can freak out less. And then it just knowing that someone like Thomas and RC or anyone in our team has been through that training, it puts me at ease that hypothetically, if I were to be put in that situation, that we're a team. They've got my back,
Your support system is really strong.
Yes.
I mean, I can't imagine being in that kind of situation, but like you said, it's almost like if you're going to get hurt, it should be here because you have so many people who are highly trained professionals around you in order to keep you safe, and that must be a nice peace of mind in the middle of doing such incredible stunts. And, sometimes that happens, and I think we had said it before, but I think, when you wave to the audience and like, hey, I'm good, it's in a way kind of similar to like when you broke off the thing and kind of breaks the story a bit. It shows the human side of the actors and the show and things like that, and I think it makes things a little bit more real for people. Like, okay, there's actually somebody putting their life on the line for a stunt. Or off the line. They're risking themselves for entertainment, and I think it'll make people a little bit more aware of the situation and a little bit more thankful of the show and whoever's working the show, because I think that's easy for people to forget sometimes. It's like, oh, these people are
We do this for
people.
you.
These people are people.
And it's also very unique because it's not like you can just drop a curtain. Like, whatever happens, they're going to see it, So it's good that you interact and put that, like, even when you're thinking of everything else, you're putting them at ease too. And I think that's really cool.
Find a lot of mishaps on YouTube, apparently.
Oh, really?
I've never looked.
There are people that anytime something has gone wrong, and like if I wasn't there on that day, someone would be like, "Did you see it? It's up on YouTube. Hold on." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, of course it is," because it's just the world we live in now.
Everyone has a camera. Everyone has a video camera, So
There was a guy who jumped the rail.
Oh, I wasn't there that day. I heard.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. There's a guy who interrupted the show, jumped the rail, and got in the water and swam to
the peninsula.
Swam to the middle of the set, and
He wanted to mess with the Gatling gun.
he was concerned for Helen and wanted to help, and so he jumped the rail, swam in like full length leather jacket. It's incredible how good of a swimmer he was, and he got out of the water without a ladder, like just climbed up,
Which is hard.
and went straight to the Gatling gun, which is a prop, but it's still like you
don't wanna mess with
you
it.
don't mess with a gun replica, and we had to like stop the show at that point and kind of deal with the situation, and it was just
Our mariner ran out. Josh ran out. And was like, easy. Just contain him.
that sounds interesting.
yeah.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
But yeah,
for you
it's
to
on
watch.
YouTube if you want to watch it.
I feel like our whole audience is going to go to YouTube now. Like, just stop the show. And
Yeah, probably. People are probably pausing to go look at that right now.
You're welcome.
And with regards to the show, you talk about the Gatling gun, which is like a perfect segue because I'm really curious about this. I think I know the answer. But, obviously there's a lot of sound effects because there's guns, there's explosions, there's punches and kicks and falls and that kind of stuff. When it comes to like those sound effects that are included within the show, is that something that people are doing live based on the choreograph that you guys have? Or are there certain moments where things are recorded and you just have to act out to it? Which I think maybe one of them would be like the fire stunt, so you're not having to talk, right?
You want to take this one?
Yeah. So like Thomas is one of the, his role doesn't have a microphone. The only characters with microphones are myself and the sage and the deacon. And so the interesting thing is that we have the guys in the booth. So our sound guy, not only are they controlling different sound effects, and we do have a track that runs. So the music that you hear is the track, and that doesn't really change. But a lot of the punching sound effects, Helen, when the mariner yells at the end, "Are you all right?" Like, that's all, like, they essentially push the button, and that's where the punch sound effects come from. But they are on a bit of a, not, like, kind of a track. Like, when we do the rope fight, for example, when I come down and I fight the lackey, if they've accidentally, because everyone's human, so if he misreads a cue and hits it too soon, they only have so many. It's not like there's just a punch button that he pushes. So, like, the next sound sequence should be a gun, like a shotgun sound from the deacon, firing at us. But it's happened before where my final punch, he's run out of punch sound, so my final punch has been a shotgun, which is technically wrong, but it makes me so happy. Like the 2 times it's ever happened, I'm like, yes!
The Terminator.
And then the Mariner comes, are you all right? And I just want to be like, are you all right? Did you just see what I did? I just punched his face off with my shotgun arm. My 12 gauge. So they control effects, and they also can control when our microphones are on and off, because when I'm running around, you don't want to listen to, the running, and which is nice because sometimes, you can hear other things. So I've whacked my leg on things before and let out a doe, which was not a doe, and went, oh my God, thank God my mic. Oh, they have my mic off. Oh, thank God, I'm not fired. Woo, which happens. So they will know, like, okay, she's coming down the road. We don't want to hear that. Turn that off. Okay, this part, we'll turn her back on, and they sort of play that game with us.
Yeah.
That's. I'm just thinking about the shotgun arm now.
Yeah.
That's what's in my head. Is the shotgun arm.
I'm gonna listen for that now. Listen for that now.
So when it does happen, we're just gonna hysterically start laughing, and no one's gonna know what we're laughing about.
Yeah.
It's in
Between us now.
us and the entire audience, all of the people listening.
We love those moments. Obviously, it's annoying when it happens too often, but when it happens, we always get a little chuckle out of it. Like her shotgun arm happens. One of the times it happens with me where I'm supposed to be hitting the Mariner with a metal, like, stick spear, and so those are metal clangs. And other time, like, instead of a punch sound, it's a metal clang. It's like, oh, my fist. I have an iron fist.
We play that game for the rest of the day.
How does that situation with the sound effects and everything work with your fire jump? Because that's a very unique situation, because you're not mic'd, things like that, but you do have sound effects that are kind of coming in and out. How does that entire situation work for you?
Yeah, so my role, I play the fire diver, but we're also known as the Deacon Double. So the Deacon is the main villain of the show. He's this bald white dude, and I am not. So after I die, I spend the rest of the show putting on a bald white man suit so that I can double him up top. And the suit is fire retardant, has all these protective layering systems so that when I'm on fire, I'm protected, but the Deacon himself is still live on mic. So as I'm running around flailing, he's yelling into his microphone backstage, and I'm pantomiming what he's saying. Yeah, and so you could theoretically say my character is also live mic.
You're dumb.
So the switch happens when he's on the ladder at the top, correct? Is that when the switch is?
Yeah, the switch. In the old show, the switch happens when he runs up the ladder, but
Plane hits
now and this is old now. This is like 4 years old now. When the plane goes over, everyone's distracted by the plane, and that's when we make the switch.
Is that why there's kind of a long pause after the plane hits, and then there's like a pause, and then pause, and then we go back to the action?
The long pause is up to the discretion of whoever's performing that day. There's no designed long pause. I think for dramatic effect, there's a long pause, but it's not because we need more time to switch them. We could switch them instantly if we wanted to.
Mostly I feel like they just want to give the audience, because that plane is such a surprise. No one ever sees that coming. So when it comes over and it lands, people are still in like holy crap mode. So it's like you give a minute to like give the respect and like the awe of that. So it'll be a couple beats, and then the Deacon and our fire diver will kind of have it. Of course, all of a sudden you'll be plane, and you'll hear, "You wrecked my plane!" And now the attention can be drawn back, and out comes Thomas with his spear. What's funny is when you guys drop the spears.
We've dropped a spear.
I don't know that you've ever had some. No, but things will happen. Like if you like the guys that when we have props, they'll run back and they'll be like, "Oh my God, Nicole, I dropped the spear. Do you think anyone noticed?" I'm like, "I don't know. I didn't see you." Like the newer kids are like, "I dropped the spear," and I'm like, "That's hilarious."
Yeah, I think I personally have not dropped a spear, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that that thing could drop. If that were to drop, that's a heavy piece of metal, man. That can hurt somebody, and that'll go straight to the bottom.
Right? That's what happens.
And at that part of the show, or that part of the pool is pretty deep. It's like 25 feet deep, and if you drop anything, you gotta go get it. So it sucks. I've been down to the bottom of that thing, and it hurts.
It hurts.
But no, it's not out of the realm of possibility to drop props into the pool. That's why a lot of our props are made of rubber. And so that way they float, and it's easier to retrieve at the end of the show. Other props are not made of rubber, and when they drop, you gotta go swim down to the bottom.
You were talking about your fire jump, and I want to ask this before I forget. What is going through your head when you're up there and everything is kind of happening? I'm just curious to know, because I personally can't put myself in your shoes. I can't imagine being in that position. Obviously, you do it every single day, and this is something that's a profession for you, so you're the best of the best of the best, like as they say in Men in Black. So, yes, sir. So what goes through your head when you're doing a stunt of that caliber?
First thought in my head is, what's for lunch? Do I have time to take a nap? No, I'm kidding. Obviously, that a fire burn is one of the higher higher risk stunts that take a lot of precaution to. With stunts, I like to call it calculated risk.
Yep.
Everything we do has a lot of research and development and data behind it to mitigate the possibility of an accident, right? So when we do a fire burn, there's a lot of prep work that goes into that particular stunt to ensure that I can do it safely and repeat it, 5 to 10 times a day between, a cast or a roster of 5 people. So what sort of technology goes into it? And understanding that technology is what keeps my mind at ease so that I can focus on the task at hand, right? I'm wearing 3 different layers of protection so that the fire does not burn me. Actually, I don't feel it at all. That's one of the common questions I get is like, do you ever feel the flames? Like, actually, no.
Feel the burn, Tom?
Feel the burn. I actually don't feel it. It's kind of a bizarre sensation. It's like I can hear the flames going off. Like
Like the whipping flame sound.
I can hear that. I know it's me.
No one can see my arm. Really silly.
But you can't feel it, right? But there are things to be wary of and aware, like the fire can still wrap around my face, so I have to move in a way to keep it away from my face. You don't want to inhale the flames, so you can't be breathing. I hold my breath the entire time. There are ways you can actually breathe while you're on fire, but you just have to be very careful that you don't inhale the flame itself, which has happened. I've done that a couple times, which is why I choose not to breathe at all now. I take one big breath, and I hold it the entire time, through the burn, through the fall, through the swim out. One big breath. So what's going on in my brain when I prep? I have a checklist I go through when I put on the suit, put on the gel. Is everything interwoven properly? Do I have any exposed areas? No? Great. I can move on to the next step. Great. All right, I'm going to grab the spear, do the choreography, make sure my mariner's safe, kick him off. He and I are still in conversation, like, is my landing safe? Even though we've done this show a million times, something can still go wrong, and we have to be head on a swivel at all times to make sure if something is a little off, is it still safe enough to complete the stunt? Yes, all right. What do I do differently to make sure that it's all right? No, how do we abort the stunt but keep the show going? Do we keep the show going? Stuff like that. In particular with this burn, the number one, I think, the biggest variable for us is the wind. The show is outside, and we're susceptible to the elements. And when something like fire that's dictated by the wind, quite often, we have wind sensors all over the set that kind of tell you which direction it's blowing, how hard it's blowing. And so I'm eyes on those sensors like a hawk. Those are my buddies. Like, what's up, Kenny? How's the wind doing today? And he'll tell me. And
what are the other names?
that one's Kenny. The one over here is Melissa. Over there is Bobby Sue.
You're making this up.
Yeah. And actually, I look at like the pyro too, because some of the pyro blows off smoke, and I'll watch the smoke and how does the smoke fly away. So all these things kind of tell me how the wind's doing, and that'll kind of dictate my movement to keep myself safe. How do I keep the flames out of my face? And then, who's watching in the audience? Do I spice it up a little bit, give it a bigger...
We never spice anything up, ever.
Every show is always
Exactly the
the
same.
best version. Yeah, and then make all these assessments are happening in real time, on the spot, and split-second decisions, right? Something that happens more often than I'd like it to is when the fuel tank itself will spritz water. It's part of the show, like the Gatling gun shoots the fuel tank, and then there's bullet holes in the fuel tank, and it shoots out quote-unquote fuel. So that water that's spraying out is actually dissipating the surface tension of the water, so that way our landing doesn't hurt as much.
Oh, that's interesting.
You'll see it commonly on like competitive like diving, high diving. They'll spray water out so that way the surface tension of the water is a little bit easier for the high fall. Yeah, for your entry. And so that serves as that purpose. It also serves as a visual aid for me. It's like, okay, the water is splashing here. That's the surface. If I don't see that, I'm looking at the bottom of the pool, and my depth perception is completely thrown off. Rather than a 45-foot fall, now it looks like, what's 45 plus 25? What's that, 70? 70 foot. So I'm looking at the bottom of the pool. It's a 70-foot fall. I'm going to, like, attempt my aerial trick, my high fall, as if it were 70 feet. Oh, shit, there's the water. Boom! And you under rotate. And that's happened to me, like once or twice, to where if I see the water not shooting anymore, then I'm looking at other visual aids to help me assess properly. Okay, 45 feet, here's my landing. Boom. And so stuff like that happens. I'm sure Nicole has a whole host of things she's looking at, like if this is going right or going wrong, how do I adjust? And
in your role, what are some of those things for you?
For me, I'm often checking where the people that I'm interacting with are, because like I said, I don't do any flipping, thank God. I mean, it's funny because you have that big jump off the tower, and for me, I'm just like, what, that thing? Like that's I don't even have to flip. I just gotta land with my feet together. But yeah, so I'll be checking and making sure, mostly for alternate sequence type stuff, because that's where I kind of like it's happened to me before where I've done the wrong alternate sequence. The Mariner didn't come up. There's if this is broken, you do this, or if this is broken, you do this. And I was supposed to, the Mariner didn't come up at the end when the Deacon and I are up there, and I'm supposed to get into the Helen basket, so I'm supposed to punch the Deacon, knee him or something, and then jump in the basket on my own rather than be hit into it. And in that moment, it had just happened where I had just learned a different alternate sequence where it's the alternate sequence for if the basket doesn't work, which means we do the whole punch thing with the deacon, and then we go down the slide pole and take the wave runner from the peninsula across to the tower, climb up the tower, and do the plane. And for some ungodly reason in my brain, I decided to do that instead. And I would have made it, but then, as happens with a lot of our skis, because we use them to death, it died.
Oh no!
And so I was in the water, like, I'm like, come on, let's go. And it's like, I'm like, dang it! And that was my total screw up. And the plane didn't go, and I eventually got across. But that's the thing is, so for me, it's making sure I'm up to date on all of my alternate sequences, the right ones, and also checking things that for me, making sure everything is latched. So the slave cage, I need to hear that click in with my partner in the lackey. And sometimes, like, I've noticed, and I think it's just because of the heat, the weather changes how things come in. So I've been helping him recently pull it in. Normally he just does it to make sure it clicks in, because we don't want anything to accidentally float back out into the middle of the set. Like if the Helen basket does, then the plane can't go off. And it's happened to me before where it did come in and it locked, and then it broke. And I had my close call where I almost fell off the tower. Luckily, I did not. And so it's kind of what we've been saying this whole time. It's just we have to be really aware of so many different things, and to keep ourselves safe and to keep our buddies safe as well.
So speaking of the plane and all the spears going to the bottom of the pool from time to time, how long does it actually take to reset the whole show? Like, get everything back to its starting position?
In working order.
Yeah.
What do we get at in like peak season, like hour turnarounds sometimes? No. Ideally. Hour and a half?
20.
Yeah. Like hour. 1 hour and 7 minutes, 0.5.
So, yeah, what's posted on the schedule for the guests is like every hour 15 is a new show. I think at the fastest we'll do, right? So if a show's at noon, the next show will be at 1:15.
Yeah.
But our show itself is close to 20 minutes. So if you factor 20 minutes out of an hour 15, that's 55 minutes to reset a show and go on your break. And I think a show takes about like 45 minutes to reset.
Yeah, they
like
reload the pyro
and the
set the
plane
tower
and bring all the cages back and reset my rappel rope, things like that. Set up my burn towel. And our crew is pretty big. It's like 9 people.
Yeah, they're good size, and they're pretty efficient.
Yeah,
like they're pretty quick.
We have a system that's set. Even though we can't all be on the stage at the same time, working at the same time, we'll break it up into segments, and so our team will reset what we need to reset, and that takes 5 minutes, and then the pyro team will go in and do their reset, and that takes 10-15 minutes. And there's a definite process to it, so that it's whittled down to about a 45-minute reset, maybe even faster. I'm not really sure, but essentially
depends on who's working.
An hour 50. Yeah, depends who's running the helm. Like an hour 15 turnaround on shows. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of factors to the show too, so I can't imagine that it's a simple reset. Obviously, like you mentioned, you have the plane that has to be lifted up and over, all the pyro, all of your props have to be set up in the place where they need to be picked up. Have there ever been a time where the prop that you need isn't placed back in the spot that you need it to be, and you go reach for it and you're like, uh-oh, and it just isn't there?
Why, yes, that does happen from time to time. I will say, our crew is pretty amazing, and so for the most part, for myself anyway, I can count on one hand the number of times that something hasn't been where it needs to be. The funniest one for me was it happened twice in one day, and I was like, seriously, whose job is this? I need to know, because I'll do it if it's a problem. Is the bucket for the bucket fight up at the tower was not in the right place, and because everything, and that's the funny thing is that there are points in time where I do sort of feel that it's not that we go on like, where I'm like, oh, I'm not thinking anymore, but they're just like, I don't think about like, is the bucket there? Like, I just assume it'll be where it's supposed to be. So when I look and go to grab it at my right and it's not there, I don't really have a lot of time to like, oh God, where do I go? So I actually just clasped my hands together and did the fight with my hands in a ball, like as a, you kick him and then so I have my hands together and I hit him in the face with my hands, and then I did it in the stomach and then right across. So it's like, it's hilarious to me. I'm like, this is not real life practical.
Bucket hands.
But it's like, but with the sound effects, it still is like, all right, like I've never really had anyone ask me like, so was that not supposed to, like if you've never seen the show, was that not supposed to happen?
You have a shotgun arm and bucket hands.
I've got bucket hands. I've got a shotgun arm. The only thing that's happened where I was like super bummed out is the slave cage. One time, the one that the lackey and I ride across on was not in place. It was already across. Like they just forgotten to reset it. Luckily, our lackey at the time, was like, by the time I get pulled out of the water to the peninsula, he pulls me out. And this is where it's cool that when they turn our mics off, because we can talk to each other. And he was like, look up. I'm like, what? He's like, the slave cages. I'm like, oh God, what do we do? And I was newer at the point. I'm like, what do we do, Skylar? What do we do? And he's like, here's what we're going to do. So we sort of can talk out the plan, which at that point means running off the tip of the peninsula, swimming across, climbing up that ladder. And at that point in time, I was like, this is a lot of energy. And I am exhausted. I am done. I was very new then. I'm like, this is terrible. So, but we do have those things in place. So as long as we're aware, but like I said, that doesn't happen very often where the crew forgot, like they're pretty, because realistically it's their asses if something were to happen bad because someone forgot to reset something. So it doesn't happen very often.
There's a lot of people checking each other's work. There's the person who's actually resetting it back. There's the stage manager who does a set walk to check all things are supposed to be there. We as performers check it ourselves. So it's super rare to have a missing.
It's a lot of people that has to go through that have to miss
a lot
that.
of cross-checking. It's everyone's responsibility to make sure.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it
human.
happens, but it few and far between. There has been a time when like a shotgun, which is a key element in the show, was not where it was supposed to be, and
Shotgun hands.
they were scrambling to find one to get on set. Like in those moments is when you have to think on your feet, like, all right, when do I have a chance to run backstage and grab my shotgun and bring it back?
Be loaded with the blanks.
Right. So all those things are playing through your head. And
I like when sometimes you guys forget your guns or drop them. One of the jet skiers forgot his gun. And so he was shooting up at me on my tower with little finger gun hands, pew pew. And it's like, and we have gloves on, so I'm like, I don't know if the audience noticed, but I look down at my water gun and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, did you just like pew pew me with like your little finger gun at the back? And he picks me up. I'm like, did you forget your gun? He's like, shut up. Do you think anyone noticed? I'm like, well, I noticed, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, there was one time in my role, I shoot a flare, and people can see me holding a flare gun to shoot, and the pyrotechnic itself is on the stage. So the flare gun is a prop. It doesn't actually shoot, but I hold it towards the piece of pyrotechnic that shoots the flare itself. And one time the prop gun wasn't there, and so I had to make my little finger guns hold it up to the area, and my finger gun shot off a flare. And I felt so awesome in that moment. I was
You guys
like,
have a lot of weapon arms.
yeah.
We do. What works is Harry Potter's right there. So
They don't call them guns for nothing, right?
Boom! Careful.
Ba-dum-ba. Rim shot, right?
Careful. We don't want to get kicked out of this place with guns.
Put your gun away, man. Put your guns away. Welcome to the gun show.
Non-concealed carry.
Everyone's embarrassing right now. I don't know.
Non-conceal and carry. I like that. As performers, do you guys have your favorite part of the show? Like, every day when you go to the show, you're like, I can't wait to do this part of the show.
Depends on how sore I am. Because my favorite part for the longest time when I got hired, it was the only thing when it took 2 weeks to train us in, and they made me wait a whole week, and I wanted to do that slide for life so bad. I was like, today the day. Come on. Today, and then they're like, all right, who wants to do it first? I'm like, pick me, because we had like 3 Helens that we were training in at the same time. And it's just fun. It's like a big zip line, and then I go off it backwards now, which is great. And we all do it a little differently, but was always my favorite part. But then I have some days where if I did a gig outside, or depending on the training that I've been doing, and then on the ladder climbing where my shoulders just kill. So then it turns into like I get to the top of the ladder and I'm like, oh God, slide for life. Okay. We're gonna take it easy on this one. So like I make decisions. I'm like, how do I feel? Okay, we'll just do it. So it becomes my favorite and least favorite part at the same time, depending on the current state of my body.
My favorite is hands down the pre-show.
Yeah. This is a lot of fun.
Getting people wet is one of my guilty pleasures. I don't know, there's something satisfying about dumping a bucket of water on somebody.
Shoot him in the face with a water gun?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Kapow.
pretty awesome.
No, it's that part of the show is where we have so much freedom to mess with the audience, right? And just and be goofy and mess around and make people smile and laugh. Like we work in the entertainment industry. Our job is to entertain people, and what better way than to be in their face making them laugh. And it's so rewarding when like they're like afraid of water, but really they kind of want it. And so I hose them, and then they're like, oh, I can't believe you got me, but this feels good.
It's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On the really hot days, are you allowed to wet them more?
Oh yeah, it's
They tell us.
It's protocol.
yeah.
It's 100 degrees today. Go nuts.
Get them. Nozzle tough.
Nozzle top.
Nozzle 'em.
Yeah.
I definitely, we love that part of the show just because we like to see the smile on people's faces, because that's what it's all about. And I have a particular memory of going to the show, and we weren't sitting like to center, we were sitting like to the right of center, and there was one kid who was just begging to get dumped water on. Like, he was like, me, please, me. And he was like sitting in like the last row of the splash zone, like the very last one that you could possibly get to. So I guarantee you the people behind him probably weren't that happy that he was like begging to get like soaked. So like finally one of the attendants, like not even like one of you guys, one of the attendants noticed him, went over to one of you guys and was like, just can you wet that kid, please? Like, he's jumping up and down. Can we go wet him? He got the bucket, walked through the crowd, and dumped it on his head, and then went back down, and everyone cheered because it was awesome. And that kid was the happiest kid the entire show, even though he was soaked. So.
Yeah. And just for fun, other than the role you play, is there any role you're like dying to try? You know, like skill level aside, you know, just like your dream role.
In the show, obviously.
Yeah.
I want to Helen.
Thomas would be a beautiful Helen. You guys can't see him, but he has prettier hair than me, and it affects my mental status most of the time. I don't know if he conditions or what. He's just got this beautiful hair.
You took a shower once in a while.
Hey, I showered this. You guys can't see, but I showered this morning. I look and smell wonderful, just so everybody is aware. I think that for me, I love to play, and I love to be able to interact and improv. So as much as I love Helen is amazing, but I don't always get as much of that freedom, except they have pre-show. I get to do it in post-show. So sometimes some of the guys are like, Nicole's post-show takes forever. I'm like, it's my platform. I'm like, this is my time now.
15 minutes on top of the other 15
How
minutes I
dare
have.
you? 15 does not take that long.
30-minute show. What
Nonsense. Someone gave Nicole a microphone. Oh, that's what happened. But so for me, I think that I would love to be a female deacon. And it's funny because they used to do a Halloween show called Waterworld, which you can also look up on YouTube. That's actually the only place that I've seen it, because by the time I started, it was no more. But it is a female sort of dominatrixy deacon that comes out on the boat, and I'm like, I saw it and I was like, oh my God, can we bring back Slaughterworld? You don't, and they're like, why? I'm like, you don't understand. I would be so good at that. I'm like, I would be so good at that. Like, that is my, if they ever bring it back, like, I will stay on the show long enough just for a promise of Slaughterworld coming back so I could be a female deacon. That would make me very happy.
For me, any role really, because my particular part in the show is a little secluded. I do the pre-show and then I die. I'm like the first guy to die. So I spend the entire rest of the show prepping for the fire burn. So I'm backstage by myself with like costuming and the crew. But there's a lot of magic that happens on stage during the show that I don't get to be a part of. I don't get to play. So I feel like I miss out a little bit on some of that. But I think being the Mariner would be pretty cool. You're the hero of the show, and you get to do awesome jet ski stuff and fight all these bad guys, and
You get the girl.
you get the girl at the end, you know.
Moments.
And
I mean, you're getting breakfast with the girl right now.
right, yeah,
Yes, that's true. You're welcome.
I'm welcome. But yeah, I think doing another role in the show would be pretty cool.
I think, like, if I were to pick, I think Mariner is the first thing that pops in my mind. It's like, who doesn't want to come out of the water on a jet ski to that awesome music? Like, you just got to get pumped thinking about it, right?
Here's
Like,
the entrance.
it's the entrance. Like, he has some pretty cool entrances, but you have the coolest exit.
Yeah,
There you go.
I close the show.
You have arguably one of like the coolest moments of the show. So, I mean,
I rival the seaplane.
you do rival the seaplane. You know, a lot of people go, oh, when the seaplane comes in, when you fall off, people are like, oh my God. So I think that's a better reaction than the plane. So, but thank you so much, guys, for spending some time. I mean, we've been talking for like an hour and a half. It feels like we've been talking like for 15 minutes. Everything is just so interesting because, like we said, Nikki and I are really big fans of the show. We see it every time we go to Universal. We love the passion that you guys have for what you guys do. It shines through the show, and it makes the show for us and for people who are going to see it for the first time. And us as fans, you know, whenever people are going to Universal Studios for the first time in Hollywood, we say, go see Waterworld. That you will not see anything like that in Orlando, in Japan, none of the other Universal parks. This is.
We have
Oh
one
wait,
in
really?
Japan.
There's one in Japan. News to
And
me.
Singapore.
This show exists on 3 continents.
I'm sorry. I'm editing this part out. My theme park ego is hurt. Okay, well, you won't see it in the United States.
Yes.
There you go.
That's a fact.
You won't see it in the
Nowhere
United
else in
States.
the United
You won't. If you go to Orlando, you won't see it. So it's unique.
Which makes no sense because I think Orlando would be the perfect place for a water world. Being from Florida, it's kind of like California. It's sunny most of the year, and I mean in the summer it rains, but not. I don't know. I think Orlando would be a great place for a water world.
I think because they just closed their T2, which was a fantastic stunt show as well. Tear it all down, Waterworld.
Yeah, water world.
But no, it's so unique and it's such a great show that we make sure to tell everybody to go see it. But I don't know if you have anything else you want to say, Nikki.
Well, I didn't get to say who I would want to be in the show.
So that's the show, everyone. Thank you for listening.
I just want to be any one of the 3 guys that gets to dump water on people at the beginning. It's yeah.
You want to be the guy who takes that water gun and squirts it in the guy's face.
Specifically, I want to be the guy in section 3 who like gets mad at his crowd for not clapping correctly and then like just sprays them. Yeah, specifically that person.
That's also our lackey, so you'd be fighting me the whole rest of the time.
Oh, them
fine.
fighting words.
That's
A
fine.
lot more energetic.
No, but thank you again so much. Like we said, we love Waterworld, and we'll be seeing you guys in the show. If you recognize our ugly mugs in the audience, we'll be the ones cheering a little bit louder at the very end of the show for you guys. So thank you again for being on the show, you guys.
Thank you so much for having us. It was really fun.
It's our pleasure to be here.
And do you guys have anything you guys want to plug? Any shows, or you guys follow on Twitter or anything? This is your moment to throw out into the ether whatever you want to throw out.
Anything?
Maybe not anything, but family appropriate stuff.
I will just say that for me, because it's always so lovely to hear how much people love the show, and especially theme park nerds, but
The theme park duo.
But for me, that's so great, because sometimes I think to myself, like, there are some of the fans of the show are just so passionate about it. Like, we've seen it so many times. Every time we go, we have to go. We have passes, and it makes it really special for me, because I sit back and I'm like, I don't know if I love anything as much as some of our fans love Waterworld. Like, they come and they take the pictures. I've seen little girls whose moms have made them little Helen dresses.
That's adorable.
And kids get so excited. So it keeps it fresh for us. And for me, Waterworld really opened up. It changed my whole life. I wouldn't have ever thought I could do stunts, and I'm a better actress. I'm a better performer, and I get to train and play with some of the most talented people in the industry. And the best thing is that outside of Waterworld, a lot of movies that you see, some of these really huge stunt players that are kicking butt in the industry and are like, whoa, this is a huge, important stunt person. So many people have been through the Waterworld show at one point, or it's almost become like a training camp for stunt coordinators, professionals. So many people have been through it. So it's really been such a joy to be a part of it and to watch all of those little pieces come together.
Yeah, there's a lot of history and a legacy with this show. It's been around, I believe, 23 years now.
A long time.
Yeah.
And so a ton of people have come through the ranks there, and it's really cool to be a part of that and be a part of that history and kind of pave the way for the next generation. And yeah.
Go.
But it's our pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having us on the show and kind of answering your questions about the show. We hope that the listeners enjoyed what we had to share.
Our shenanigans.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they did.
Yeah.
All they're going to take from this is bucket hands and shotgun arms.
Pow!
And fire.
You are exactly correct. Bucket hands and shotgun arms. That's how we end this show, people. But thank you again, guys, and we can't wait to see you guys on the show again.
That was fantastic. Like, I had such a great time talking with Thomas and Nicole, and it makes me just want to see Waterworld like 10,000 more times.
I agree.
There you go.
Sorry. I was thinking about the mic on the fork.
Did we mention that while
Yes,
we were
we did,
recording?
because Nicole was holding it, and I said, "Fork me," and I didn't want anybody else to think anything bad of that. So I was like, "We have the mic on the fork." That's why I said, "Fork me."
Yeah, we chatted with them over brunch. So
Yeah.
we just had this little tiny mic, and I just had
a lav mic.
I just had the brilliant idea of sticking it on a utensil.
Cheers to you for thinking of that
Yeah.
wonderful idea.
Yeah.
On a utensil. If it was on a spoon, wouldn't have worked.
No.
Knife? Yeah.
It kind of
Fork? Yeah.
It kind of looked like the Bob Barker Price is Right mic.
That's
where it's
what I
really
thought
long
of
and
too.
skinny. Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I was thinking about. That's why I didn't respond. But yes, I agree. It was such a good interview to get all that insider perspective. And I always love getting into the minds of people who work shows and theme park experiences and entertainment that we like so much. And hopefully we do get to do a part 2 talking about Phantasmic and all this stuff, because that's something we can do.
That would be fantastic.
That would be phantasmic.
It would be fantastic.
Oh, not like anyone's made that joke before. Anything.
Oh,
moving
yeah,
on.
I'm sure.
Anyway, or anything. But yeah, so I really enjoyed it, and thank you again to Thomas and Nicole for joining us, taking their time out of their day to sit down with us and just chat everything Waterworld.
Yeah.
So, and thank you, the fans of the show, the listeners, for tuning into this week's episode. We know that finding time out of your busy day to listen to us ramble and say ridiculous things like talking about getting forked with a mic on a fork, or talking about Halloween Horror Nights and being silly and stupid fits into your day. We're thankful for that. We're thankful we fit into your day. Thank you for listening to us ramble on and on and on and on and on. I just wanted to be rude at that point. Take up the most time possible.
And on. And on. And
yes.
on.
Yes.
And then.
I thought you were gonna say and on.
And then.
Anyway, let's get out of that loop. Get out of the loop. Thank you for listening to the show this week. We always really appreciate you guys taking your time to listen to the show. If you guys want to look us up on social media, if you haven't already, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, all searchable by Theme Park Duo. You can always check our website, which is themeparkduo.com. If you ever want to reach us, let us know you love the show, you hate the show, a topic you want to hear on the show, always email us, and you can reach us at
themeparkduo@gmail.com.
Yes, of course. And I just want to remind everybody once again, we do have shirts. They are TeePublic.
Yes, TeePublic.
TeePublic.com. We have the link in the description of all the episodes. It's also on our website. You can find the link there. For some reason, when you search Theme Park Duo on the site, like nothing pops up, which is really weird.
I noticed that.
But we have, Trader Sam's shirt. We have Theme Park Duo shirt. We have a whole bunch of other shirts for your shirt buying festivities.
I highly recommend the Trader Sam shirt. It's the one I want when I'm a normal size again.
I just like the Theme Park Duo one. It's just like a simple logo in the corner of the chest, whatever color you want, things like that.
Yeah.
It's simple, fun, nice, clean. That's what I like.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy one of those shirts and support the show, you can do so. The link is in the description, and it's on the website on every single podcast post on themeparkduo.com. So I just want to remind everybody that's there, because I tend to, like before we record, I'm like, Gabe, remind them about the shirts. And then I always frickin' forget.
You gotta remind me to remind you to remind them about the shirts.
I should.
I'm
because
the
that's
memory.
usually, you're the memory. I have terrible
I'm
memory.
your remember
Short-term
all.
memory is bad.
Yeah, I'm your remember all.
Thank you.
It's true though.
I know.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, he didn't remember what he forgot. He was not wearing his robe.
He was not wearing his robes.
Nope. At all. Harry Potter references, people. Anyway, Tracy, if you're listening, butterbeer's better than pumpkin juice. Moving on. Sorry, inside jokes. Moving on. Thank you again for listening, everybody. And always remember, there's always a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. See ya.
Thanks for riding with the Theme Park Duo. Make sure to gather all your belongings before the end of the podcast. Bye-bye.